Hey guys, UFC Fight Night, Aspinall versus Tybura takes place this Saturday night. Just wanted to talk, just wanted to give you guys our picks, our predictions. We see the return of Tom Aspinall, who's been away for a while. We see some interesting matchups, like for example, Paul Craig moving down to middleweight, fighting Andre Muniz, and some couple other interesting matchups. We didn't talk about last week's card. I'll be honest, it was kind of very weak. Didn't think there was much to talk about, but we're back to talk about this week's card.
Yeah, I kind of forgive UFC last event and actually this coming event because of 290 and 291.
Yeah,
Without knowing good, you wouldn't know the bad, and the other, and the vice versa. Without really knowing what's bad, you wouldn't know what's good. You wouldn't appreciate it.
yeah, and me personally, I think I could suffer through last week's card if we have a couple more, UFC 290s, 291s. So, that's okay. But uh, you know, as well as for this card though, it's not that strong, so we're not going to be going over every fight. Maybe we'll just kind of talk a little about a couple of the fights. But I guess we could just start off with the first fight, which is Jafel Fialo, I think his name is, versus Daniel Barez. And I'll be honest, I don't really know Daniel Barez, but if you do remember I think it's Jafel. He fought Mokaev, I think it was in
Yes.
March. And he made a pretty good account of himself. I mean, he gave Mokaev a lot of problems. He had him in that close knee bar. He stole that round off Mokaev. We know he's very good. So I don't know much about Daniel, to be honest. I think this is his UFC debut. I could be wrong, but just off of Jafel's last performance, I'm gonna have to just pick him. But again, to be honest, don't know much about Daniel. So that's my kind of quote unquote educated guess, I guess you could say. Just that's my pick. I don't know if you have anything really to say on this fight.
Not much to say.
Yeah, I mean, not much to say about a guy who, this is his second fight in the UFC, Jeff Ells, and this is Daniel's first fight. So we'll see. Next up, we have women's strawweight fight. We have Shauna Bannon versus Bruna Brasil. Now, again, I don't know too much about these fighters, but I do know Shauna is kind of getting a lot of like hype recently. I see her all over, doing interviews and Twitter and Instagram, and she's on Ariel Helwani show. Again, I don't really know much about her. She's 5-0. This is her debut fight. Um, to be honest, I really don't have a pick on this one. I'll just say, as usual with the women's strawweights, you should be fine with putting this. You should be fine with if you want to bet on something, you could bet on an over 2.5. I mean, you almost will never go wrong with that. Um, but next up, we have a lightweight matchup between Chris Duncan and Yanal Ashmouz. Yanal is that Israeli guy. He fought earlier this year. Again, not much to say about this one. This should be a close one. If you remember, Chris fought Omar Morales, which is that Venezuelan guy, earlier this year. I mean, it
Yeah,
was a
there's
okay
not much
fight.
data on. Yeah, there's really not much data to go off of. There's not
Exactly,
much
yeah.
historic.
And Yanel as well. This is his second fight in the UFC, I believe, and um, wasn't so impressed with his performance, but he's 7-0. Um, yeah, I think he's actually the underdog, but I think that the odds are very close. Um, Again, we can move on to the next fight, and we apologize if we're moving a little too fast, but again, there's just not much data in these people, and they don't have many fights, kind of unranked, so we just kind of, you know, just give you a quick picks for some of these fights. Another one's Ketlen Vieira, for example, fighting Pannie Kianzad. This is a women's bantamweight. Um, Again, don't know much about these fighters, but I know Ketlen Vieira is big. I know she's pretty strong. She's thrown around like Holly Holm, for example, and a couple other fighters. But we've seen her. I think was it who was it that just put her away? The Irina Aldana put her away. So she's been put away before, but again, I would not hesitate on betting over 2.5 on this. We've seen her have many performances where she's just holding people against the cage and not really doing much. And I think it's going to be another one of those typical fights where you could throw this in a parlay with the Shauna, I think, for the over 2.5. What do you think?
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. And next up, I think we can finally move on to a fight that I'm kind of maybe looking forward to. Let's say it's Makhmud Muradov versus Bryan Barberena. Now, this one actually threw me off, a little off guard when I first heard about this fight because I thought maybe I thought like Makhmud's going down, like what the heck? But no, Bryan Barberena is moving up to fight Makhmud Muradov. I mean, to be honest, I'm not really sure what to think about this one. Bryan Barberena, of course, the more experienced guy in the octagon, but Makhmud Muradov had that win over Kyle Borralho, I think, and we haven't seen him for a while, right?
No, he lost to Cow. He lost to
He
Cow.
lost.
He lost to Cow.
Really?
Yeah, he lost to Cow. He has two losses in a row. He lost to Cow. I remember he gassed in the third round.
Yes,
and
yes.
he has a loss to Mearshard.
Yes.
So
yes,
in
you're
both
correct.
of those fights, he showed bad cardio. Like he
Yeah.
was winning Mearshard in the first round, and he was not doing bad against Cow also. But then he gassed.
Yes.
Will this be a factor now against a smaller fighter? I mean, you have to say Barberena is a much smaller fighter. If anything, Barberena should probably be in the lightweight. I mean, we've seen how fat he looked in his last fights, couple of his last fights. So yeah, I'm not. I'd probably definitely go with Makhmud Muradov here.
Yeah, and I think that's simply for the fact just because he's fighting Bryan Barberena. We've seen Bryan Barberena dominated by RDA in wrestling in clinch positions, and now he's fighting a bigger guy in Makhmud who could also grapple, could also wrestle. Striking is not quite there, but I think Bryan Barberena, I think he should be able to not put him away, but definitely he could steal a decision for sure. Makhmud also seems to be a very big favorite. He's a minus 300. But I'm kind of surprised Bryan Barberena moving up. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know who his managers are and what are they advising him. I think it's a bad advice.
Yeah, I don't know if it's him. I mean, he does come in a little fat, which is, I thought I don't know, is he just like not gonna cut weight for this fight? I mean, what is he doing?
I guess we'll see.
We'll see. That's right, I guess. But yeah, just once again, Makhmud Muradov should get this one by decision. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Bryan Barberena falls for like some sort of submission or something like that. We've seen him fall for those before. But next up, we have a heavyweight matchup versus Mick Parkin versus Jamal Pogues. I'll be honest, I don't know who these guys are. So don't really know what to say about this one. I think this is both of their UFC debuts. I could be wrong on that. But
Well, you're right.
Yeah. If you want, it's heavyweight fight. Both guys, it's their debut. Maybe just for fun, throwing it under 2.5 or fight does not go distance. But honestly, I would not. Just not enough data on these guys. Just not enough.
Yeah.
Next up, we have another maybe interesting matchup. We have Marc Diakiese versus Joel Alvarez. Joel Alvarez, of course, had a lot of hype coming into the UFC. I still think he's a very good prospect. He's very tall for the division. He's very long, hits hard. We haven't seen him, I believe, since he last fought. Is it Arman Tsarukyan, like last year, right?
Yeah.
He did miss weight. He did miss weight by a couple of pounds, so maybe that's something to kind of keep in mind. But ultimately, I think I'm going with Joel Alvarez. I think I wasn't impressed with Marc's last fight against Michael Johnson. He looked to be slower, which is okay. Most people are a little slower than Michael Johnson, but it just looked like he kind of looked a little lost. Looked like to me the fight IQ is not there for Marc. Not enough activity. wasn't pushing the pace. He was down. He knew he was down 2 rounds. He was losing the third. He didn't attempt to do anything. And then I remember he lost and kind of like had that confused look after him. You know, it was clear he lost, but he just overall showed low fight IQ, in my opinion. I think Joel Alvarez should beat him.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going with Joe Alvarez on this one. Although he might not be the favorite.
I could check that real quick. Let's see. Oh no, he's a 2-1 favorite. He's a favorite.
He is okay.
Yeah, he's a favorite. I just hope that Joel Alvarez comes back and you know, I hope he's in good form, like he doesn't miss weight or anything. He suffered that pretty brutal loss to Arman, but I mean it's Arman. He's really good. But that cut was nasty. I'm sure by now he should be healed up. Hopefully he's surrounding himself with, you know, good coaches and good you know, he's eating right. I just want him to make weight because last time I think it was a little disappointing for him to miss weight, especially with
He's huge.
prospect.
He is huge.
He's big, but I don't know how well he does in 170. He doesn't seem to have like a thick frame, if that makes sense. At least to me. Maybe he could build up one day, but I think this should be. I think it's going to be a decision for Joel Alvarez. What do you think?
I could probably go submission or TKO.
Really?
Alvarez, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Although you know it's hard to pick against the Diakiese in terms of TKO because I don't think even
Disease, right? Fought him.
Disease was able to put. Yeah, I don't think he was able to put him. That went decision if I remember.
Joel Alvarez does
but
just forward though. He just throws heavy shots.
yeah, he is. Yeah, he is a hard puncher for sure.
Yeah,
But if you wanna a safer pick than just to take him as a favorite.
Yeah, just take a money line for sure. That's the safer pick. But yeah, once again, Joel Alvarez is as our pick. Next up we have Danny Roberts versus Jonny Parsons. Again, I do know Danny Roberts. I'm not really sure who Jonny Parsons is. I do know Danny Roberts. If you remember, he last fought. He fought Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena, I believe, put him away quickly. He fought Francisco Trinaldo. I remember him losing that fight as well. He lost to Francisco Trinaldo. Don't know who Jonny Parsons is again, but they seem the odds show that they're even. But just because I've seen Danny Roberts before, I'm probably just gonna I would just pick him, just based off of the fact that I think there's just more information about him. He's fought higher level competition. Jonny Parsons, this is his debut fight in the UFC. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'll probably not take that bet at all. I'll
Really,
probably
yeah.
not take that. I'll probably not take that bet. I'm not gonna take the Amir Khani bet versus Pierce either. So those are very close odds.
Yeah, they even some for some reason. Next up we have Davey Grant versus Daniel Marcos. This is the prelim, I guess, main event of the prelim, or what do they call it? The last fight of the other preliminary card. Again, don't know too much about Daniel Marcos. I do know, I see here he's 14-0. He's the younger guy by 7 years. The height's pretty much the same. The reach is pretty much the same. What do you think about this fight? Do you have any thoughts, even if at all?
No, I agree with you here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to be safe, again, not bet at all, but if you really do want to bet, you can bet on Daniel Marcos. He seems to be the favorite. He's 14-0. Again, a younger guy. If you really want to bet, you can go with him. Next up, we have this is the first fight of the main card. We have Lerone Murphy versus Joshua Culibao. I believe Joshua Culibao is he Australian? Yes, he's from Sydney, Australia.
Yes, he's Australian. He's Australian.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's a Whitaker's teammate, but in any case, um, Josh Kulabau, I'm not really sure how impressed I was with his last fight. Now, if you remember, he did fight Melsick, kind
Yeah,
of,
Nelson
kind of
who
getting,
fought on the previous card. Yeah,
yeah, I was kind of getting beat up by Melsick, if I remember correctly, and then Melsick kind of was just, I don't know, being stupid or whatever, got submitted. Again, not
yeah,
too
he took
much.
him downable. Remember in the second round, and he submitted him. Yeah, but Koulibaly's been inconsistent in the recent years. Murphy believe is the favorite in this fight. Is a striker.
He's the
Won three
favorite.
of his last four. I think Murphy will win this by decision.
Yeah.
Should win.
I agree. I think Laurent Murphy is the much better striker. We've seen him knock out some people. We've seen him take a Douglas Silva de Andrade to a decision, which Douglas is pretty good. Laurent Murphy's 12-0. He's fighting out of the UK, so he should be well rested.
Home crowd.
Yeah, I think Laurent Murphy should beat him. Joshua Kolobal also fought Choi Song Woo. I remember this fight actually he beat him by decision, but Choi Song Woo just fights like a like a weirdo. He just throws caution to the wind. He's lost many times. I don't think that's a very impressive win, if I'm being honest. But I would go with Laurent Murphy. I think he's the better striker. He's the more just polished MMA fighter, I believe.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Jai Herbert versus Fares Ziam. Now, man, they really like putting Jai Herbert on these UK cards. I feel like he's been on every single UK card, like the last four of them or three of them, huh? They like putting him
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it might turn out to be this typical striker versus grappler kind of match. Because we know Ziam is more of a submission specialist, whereas Jai is more known for his striking. I believe he won four of his last five. He lost to he lost to
Tapuria by knockout.
Tybura, yes. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
lost
a
to
pretty brutal
Tybura.
knockout too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's lost by submission before. He's lost to Moicano by submission. He's also been knocked out by Trinaldo. If you remember, that was the knockout where Herb Dean just
Yeah.
I don't know what Herb Dean was doing. The guy was clearly out, but Herb Dean, I guess, just wanted he wanted to leave no
Fell
doubt.
asleep.
I don't know what he was doing, but again, not a lot of information. I think in terms of on the Faraz is that how you say his name? Faraz. He we
Barez, yeah.
Yeah, Ziam. We do know that he's the younger guy by like 9 years, but
He's
other than
Tunisian
that,
or Algerian,
I,
something like
I
that.
believe he's Tunisian. I believe he's Tunisian.
Yeah.
Yes. The odds here show Faraz Ziam as the favorite, not a big favorite, but a favorite nonetheless. To be honest, I don't really know about this fight. I don't know who I'm picking. What do you think? What are you thinking?
I think Jai takes this by decision.
Yeah, I'm slightly leaning towards Jai. Just the odds are kind of throwing me off. I see he's an underdog here, but I don't think Fares is gonna knock him out or anything. Maybe he might take him down, but Jai's long. Jai's not bad. He's tricky too. He has those sneaky kicks. He manages distance well. Um, should be interesting, I guess. But
How
I'm
does it
slightly
fight?
yeah. It should be. I mean, compared to the other fights on this card, I think it should be pretty good. But yeah, slightly leaning towards Jai, but probably won't be betting on this fight. Next up, we had another fight, kind of like the Makhmud Muradov fight versus Bryan Barberena. We have Paul Craig and versus Andre Muniz in middleweight. And the reason I mentioned that fight is because I thought this was like another one of those, like, am I seeing things? How's Paul Craig fighting a middleweight? But I guess, yeah, he's moving down to middleweight to fight Andre Muniz. And I was a little surprised because he seems big to me. He fought He fought Jamal Hill. He looked big with Jamal Hill. He fought, he looked to be a similar stature, with Ankalaev and Johnny Walker was a little taller than him, but Johnny Walker's a beast. He's bigger than everyone. I was a little surprised to see him move down. What were you thinking?
I'm surprised he moved down, but I think he was saying that he didn't really had much weight to lose before the fights. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. So that's a big unknown. We don't know. We have in this fight. I think we have grappler versus grappler.
Yeah,
Very interesting to how this turns out.
yeah,
What I don't like about Paul Craig's style, and we've seen him in the last fights, like he is capable of doing good takedowns, but we've seen him just fall. Remember in his last fights, he would just get a double or a single, and instead of driving, he would just crumble. Right?
yeah,
It's just
yeah. He's done that against many guys before, like Krylov. If you remember, he just or was it Ozdemir, Volkan Ozdemir? He just kept sitting.
Ozdemir, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
very
he would just keep
fight.
sitting down. This is not a jiu-jitsu match, and Muniz is a little bit more refined, I think. But again, Muniz lost to Brendan Allen, right?
Yeah,
Who's not known for his grappling. So it is. Assuming that the weight cut it goes well for Paul Craig, I'm going with Paul Craig for this. So I probably want to see him at the scale, see what he looks like, and maybe then then make a decision. But yeah, that's a big unknown here.
To be honest, I think I might go with Andrew Muniz, and I think this might be the first time that we kind of disagree on a fight here. I just think Andrew Muniz is more willing to go forward. I think Paul Craig kind of seems, like you said, he's fine with just sitting down. He'll be losing a fight. He'll stay on his back. We have seen Andre Muniz gas out in that third round against Brendan Allen, but I think if I remember correctly, weren't there some sort of circumstances where like it was last minute? I could be wrong on that. It was a while ago. But I think Andre Muniz is just. I think he's the more dangerous guy. He throws more submissions. He's willing to strike more. He's willing to drive for his takedowns. While I think Paul Craig kind of just seems content with,
Paul Craig is an opportunist, right? When he will only go for submission when he sees one, and he will, which might not work against Andre Muniz, right? So that's also.
Yeah, I think Andre Muniz is not gonna do like, for example, what Krylov did. If you remember, Krylov had him in Paul Craig in all sorts of trouble, but he just kind of threw caution to the wind and got caught with that triangle. I think Andre Muniz is a little more. You're gonna take his time. He's a little more savvy, if that's the correct word in this scenario. I think Andre Muniz should win, and he's actually the favorite too, which I'm a little surprised. I thought Paul Craig might be the favorite just because he's the bigger guy. But I think should be another interesting one.
Yeah.
And again, it's a middleweight, so we'll see if Paul Craig is affected by that weight cut at all, because an extra 20 pounds to cut that you weren't cutting before could affect him. Who knows? Next up, we have a featherweight matchup. We have Nathaniel Wood versus Andre Fili. Now, I don't think we've seen Andre Fili fight for a while. I could quickly check on this. Let me see when the last time he fought was. Yeah, the last time he fought looks like was about 10 months ago. He's fighting Nathaniel Wood, who again I think also fought. All these guys are just fighting all on the UK cards. It's just is that I guess they only fight like once a year on these UK cards. But he last fought Charles Jourdain. He looked really well. He looked really good against Charles Jourdain, and before that he fought Charles Rosa. If you remember, he kind of just beat Charles Rosa up. Charles Rosa had nothing for him. Nathaniel Wood looked good in all aspects, like the boxing, the kickboxing. I think he's going to beat Andre Fili. I think Andre Fili's he's young, but I feel like he's been in the game for a while. I think Nathaniel Wood should take this one.
I'm going with Wood on this one. Yeah,
You going with who? Sorry.
Nathaniel Wood.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's the faster. I think he has better boxing, better kicking. We've seen Andre Fili put away as well, right? Did was it Yair Rodriguez that put him away with that head kick, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we've seen him put away a couple more times before that. I think this is a Woods fight to win. Next up, we have the women's flyweight co-main event. We have Molly McCann versus Julia Stoliarenko. I think she's from Lithuania. This is another one where don't really know much about Julia Stoliarenko except that she not very good. You know, I just know that she lost. What was it? She lost to last the Chelsea Chandler who just fought last week and she looked horrible. Before that, she lost to
And
Julia
she's going down
Oliveira.
the weight class.
She lost to Yanal Santos. Is she going down the weight? Really? Oh yeah, you're
She's
right.
going down the weight. She's going down the weight, and just remembering how, and again, with all due respect, how fat she looked in her last couple of fights, and I'm just not even picturing how she's making weight though. It's yeah, I'm going Molly McCann here. Probably by submission, some sort of.
That's so random. I was
Local
gonna say
hero.
Molly McCann just by some sort of decision. You think
Yeah, well, definitely the win. I mean, if you want to be more, uh, I guess conservative, then just take that Molly McCann as a winner here.
yeah,
I don't know what the odds are. She's got to be a big favorite though.
Molly McCann is a 2-1 favorite. Yeah, and I didn't even know the odds were in her favor. The only reason I was picking her against Julia is not because I think Molly McCann's that good or anything. I think Julia is just not very good, to be honest. Again, she looked very bad in her last performance, and I think she had a win before that. It was by a quick submission, if I believe. Let me check that real quick. Oh yes, it was Jessica Rose Clark. I believe she broke her arm like in the first minute or so, right? By that armbar. But again,
Yes.
not a very impressive win if you ask me, just because of the caliber of opponent. Jessica Rose Clark has lost many times before by submission, by decision, by knockout. So I really don't put too much stock into that performance. But I think Molly McCann just by decision, yeah. Um, Next up, we have main event. Tom Aspinall versus Marcin Tybura. Tom Aspinall has been away for over a year. He suffered that brutal injury, the knee injury, where he's even talked about in many interviews. He was talking about he was thinking that he's done. He doesn't want to fight anymore. It looks like it really played it really took a toll on him mentally, physically, and he wasn't even sure if he wanted to do this anymore. But he's back. He's back against Marcin Tybura. I believe he even called out Marcin Tybura.
I believe they were supposed to fight before one day, and I got somehow canceled. I could be wrong.
On this come up, could be maybe they might have had something set up, but something fell through. Could be.
Yeah, I'm definitely be very cautious here. Although Tom Aspinall is a big favorite, I'm assuming he's a big favorite. There's still this uncertainty about his mental state, right? When you are thinking of ending your career, and then one moment, and a few months later you want to fight again, and I don't know if he's all 100% there mentally.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I don't know. Marcin, we know Marcin is a durable guy. We know he's I mean, it's a 5-round fight. And we've never seen Aspinall go past the third round, I believe, right?
I don't think we've even seen him past this. Yeah, he's never entered the third round, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll be kind of, I want to see the weigh-ins. I want to see how he looks, and
To be honest, I'm a little surprised. I thought it was, to me, it's a pretty simple pick. I thought you would go with Tom Aspinall. To me, it seems obvious.
on paper, yes, on paper, Aspinall should destroy him. But again, I
Are you
just don't
thinking
know
about?
if his leg is healed.
Are you
He had
thinking about the
MCL,
leg? Yeah.
ACL, and yeah, we don't know how well it healed. We don't know where he's mentally, right? I mean,
Well,
on the interviews, you can say anything, right? But is he
I'm
really
gonna.
there?
I'm gonna assume his leg is fine, and I'll tell you why. Just because how many times have we seen, let's say, in the last 5, 6, 7, even 10 years, where a guy, let's say, blows out his ACL, MCL, and I think with the technology they have now, with the medicine technology they have now, they usually come back looking just fine. I don't think it was like what it was 20 years ago in the UFC, where a guy would like hurt his leg and then come back. Like, remember before when it was like a guy tore his ACL or whatever, and it was like, that's it, his career is done. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I think he'll come back just fine, to be honest. And I think he's gonna run over Tybura. And run over is a tough word to use, just because we know how durable he is. But if you remember Tybura's last performance against Blago Ivanov, in my opinion, that was a terrible performance. I thought Blago Ivanov, maybe there was even a chance that he won against Tybura. It was he looked very slow. He looked very
It was a
just
terrible performance against
against
Alexander
Alexander
Romanov.
Romanov. He looked
The
terrible.
only way he won is because Romanov gassed.
Yeah,
So yes, Aspinall should be able to destroy him.
I
Maybe
think.
in the first second round.
Yeah. The thing is, Tom Aspinall, I don't think he's going to out grapple Tybura or anything, just because Tybura is so big. Like, Tom Aspinall has good double legs and stuff like that, but I don't think that's going to work on Tybura just because of how big he is. I think Tom Aspinall is just going to strike him from a distance. I think he's going to kick him. I think Tybura does what he always does, which is try to close the distance. He tries to, he tries to get you against the cage. I think Aspinall is just going to be a little too quick. He's going to use lateral movement. He'll be in and out. I don't think this goes 5 rounds. I don't see this going 5 rounds. I see
No,
I
me
see
neither.
Tom Aspinall putting him away in the third round. Uh, Third round, second round, maybe if Tom Aspinall really steps on the gas, but I don't think he should, just because, again, Tybura is he's a vet, you know. He's very, he can get grimy, he can take big shots. We've seen him take shots from Derek Lewis, from Romano, from Blago Ivanov, from Walt Harris, gave him some big shots. Marcin Tybura fought a lot of guys like Volkov, for example. Volkov hit him a couple of times. But he's very hit or miss, Tybura. Sometimes he looks good, sometimes he looks bad, sometimes he looks fat, sometimes he looks a little thinner, skinny. He's fast, he's slow. He's very on and
And
off.
he's very hittable. He's
He's
very
very
hittable.
hittable. I think Tom Aspinall is the way, not even safer pick. I think it's just an obvious pick.
Yeah.
Not to mention, again, heavyweight. We know that speed is everything in heavyweight, and we know that because of guys like, for example, what Jailton Almeida is doing, right? Just killing people with his
Yeah.
speed, for example. I think it's going to be one of those. Not to mention, Tom Aspinall is the much younger guy. He's younger by 7 years. I think their height and reach is the same, but
I would love to see that fight, Aspinall versus
Almeida.
Almeida. That would be an awesome fight. Wow.
Yeah, and Almeida has a matchup set already in November, actually, with Curtis Blades, who beat Tom
Yes.
Aspinall.
Yep. He does.
But yeah, those are our picks, guys. Really sorry that we kind of didn't do any deep dives into these fights. Again, just to be honest, we don't really. I consider myself hardcore. I think you consider yourself hardcore, but to know some of these guys is I think a little too much. That would require, let's say, watching all these other random promotions, and it's just, I think, too much.
Yeah, that's just too much to watch and analyze. Absolutely.
Yeah, but those are our picks. We will be doing UFC 291 for sure. That is an awesome card. Kind of maybe took a little bit of a hit with the Paulo Costa and Ikram leaving the card, so we'll see. We'll see how what we. Do you think the card is still stacked even without that?
Still an awesome card. It's still an awesome card, even with Costa out. Yeah, still believe in awesome card. They did take kind of their time. I think what we know now is that Ali kind of knew weeks in advance that he's not going to be fighting Costa, and but UFC didn't want to announce it. I guess they wanted to make the card still look beefed up, and
Yeah.
but
Yeah, which is a little shady to me because I'm sure there's people that thought like, oh, we'll go see Paulo Costa live. Maybe that was some people buying tickets, not per se just for that matchup, but that matchup really, I think, did elevate the card. So I think that should have been something that if they didn't announce, he should have announced before. But if you guys made it this far, keep an eye out. I will be posting hopefully tomorrow about all the new MMA matchups, like for example, UFC Abu Dhabi and the Corey Sandhagen's opponent fell out. I'll be making a video of that and releasing that soon. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye out on our UFC predictions for UFC 291. We should be doing, I think, every fight, if not every fight, it should be most of the card should be covered and in much greater detail than we did today. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Thank you for watching, guys.
hey guys.
Bye.